Member Lester?
Here.
Member Smyser?
Here.
Member Starley? And Member Norval.
I guess we probably should begin this by,
Oh, I didn't get one of these. Oh. Where are they?
you didn't.
You got any more of these?
I
just
printed mine at home.
Me
I
too.
don't need one. I printed mine at the house.
Yeah, we had 15 minutes notification of this meeting. Because I was in another meeting, it's at the Brandon Center.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's like,
Well, I got an email a week ago.
I just got it.
I get one today that was a reminder, but there was one that
It's
came,
okay.
one that
I
came
just like
out
to give
week.
a hard time.
Okay.
But it was a good, I mean, I had gone home, and I was fixing to take off my clothes and put some shorts on, and I went, and I looked at my email, and I went, oh, crap.
Well, we're glad that you were able to recover. I guess we should start by looking at what has already transpired, if it's okay for me to just talk a little bit.
Just make sure you're in line.
What has already transpired, there was a planning effort previously. We were still encumbered by pandemic constraints. There was an effort to try and put an activity together that did not work out. But we did succeed in getting the mayor to agree and to prepare and release a proclamation on the airport's 75th anniversary. And so are we all in agreement that we still want to go forward with some type of celebration?
Definitely,
Okay.
yes.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody was in agreement, that the airport staff and the board were in agreement that we definitely wanted to go forward with that. So with that, what are you folks considering?
Well, we really wanted to hear from you all and any ideas that you might have. I've handed out a diagram of something that I know has been discussed at some point, which I think is a cool idea, and I wanted to see if there's any other ideas, starting with, do we want to hold something at the airport, right, preferably, or do we want to consider holding something somewhere else? I mean, we've got options. You know, we could hold it at the, what is it, the
Brandon Center
yeah, I mean,
or Bay James.
you could, you know, there's other options if we didn't want to, if we want to do something inside. Do we want to do a public event? Do we want to do a private event? I mean, and do we want to have a committee? I just kind of open that up to you all, because I was not here for the original planning process. So I was hoping we'd have a little bit more participation, but I think I'm appreciative of what we have here today, so we can start
Now,
with that.
I've got everything, like a folder this thick,
Right.
from the last time that when Adam was there, that we all sat down and planned all that stuff that we wanted to do. So you can have it if you want, or y'all can look at it or whatever. That's up to y'all. If I'd have known, I would have brought it. I just,
Well, no, what all did it encompass?
it had,
And if you
Two
guys just
different
speak
maps.
into the mic,
Oh.
at least close enough so we can hear you.
It had two different maps posed. We had thought about doing a black tie function out in front, and then we had thought about doing, instead of putting it out front, to do it in the back so that we could do the red carpet. And then we were going to have the all of the things about all the different airplanes from the 75 years. And we were trying to get one sample of every airplane that we could put on the runway, or, you know, the Safeway or whatever you want to call it, so that people could see it and also have a story written about each airplane, telling the history of the airplane. So that was originally what we were thinking about doing. And if we had the, we were thinking at one time we might have something like $150 a person to go to this dinner and have really nice food and wine and beer, liquor, be catered, white tent, kind of almost like a black tie thing, and to try to get I know we can get Tom Wright here, I'm positive, I just saw him today, but him and to get the governor, because the governor likes to come here, he likes to fly here. So those are the kind of things that we talked about originally. And then, we were paving and lots of other stuff, and it didn't work out. Let's just put it that way. So those were kind of the things that we had planned, that we had talked about. The only thing that you're going to have to remember is, and I don't have it with me, it's in that folder, there's going to be another air show in October somewhere here in Florida. I have the information at home, but I don't have it with me, because they already pre-planned everything. And we thought about trying to get the Thunderbirds so they could do a drive-by, or, the Navy, because it was given to us by the Navy. And we also had talked about getting an astronaut, because I have a friend that works at the Space Center, and another friend that was going to take me down there to introduce me to one of the colonels down there, and maybe we could get them to come, and maybe we could get an astronaut too, somebody that lives around here. So that was kind of it was a wow factor, and that was kind of what we had talked about doing. The big key is the date. That's the big key, because we don't want to interfere with any other air show anywhere. It won't be beneficial for us. So, and then we have this idea that Adam drew. And what this is all the stars are different kind of aircraft. And he wanted to do an aesthetic booth for the air, the airplane would be there, and there would be all information in there. And we talked about getting I don't know if it was the Boy Scouts or it was somebody that we talked about getting to help out. Maybe it was the Color Guard or something we had talked about. I don't remember what organization it was. But anyway, that's kind of what we had talked about. So we wanted to make it a wow factor because the fact it's 75 years. That's a long time. Who knows if you'll still be around for 75 years? I don't think I will, but you know what I mean.
So how many days was this?
It would have been
a 1 or a 2 day or a 3?
It would have been Thursday night, would have been if you did the black tie function, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Wow, so it would be 3.5 days or so.
Mm-hmm. The black tie function would be strictly a black tie function. It wouldn't, if they want to run in and saw the airplanes, that's fine, but it's not open to the public. I mean, it's going to be a paid event. Everything else was an open event. We would take, we have a price to get in. So that's what it was.
Well, now, if this would be centered in front of the office there, then is enough parking available?
It would be down here. Okay, you see on the map, point to where the parking would be, Arvin, please.
Okay,
There's
the tent would be here.
Well,
Tent
we
would
can have
be-
it two places. We could have it, we had talked about having it right in front of our office because of the fact of the restrooms.
Yes.
It would be really nice instead of having it on the grass, the black tie function, right in front of there. And then we would have a red carpet that they could walk out. In other words, they could use the restrooms in our office. The tent would be right in front of the office on the runway or taxiway, whatever. And then that would be the Thursday night thing. And then everything else would be all down in this area here.
So tent here, where my cursor is, right? Somewhere in this area on
Right.
on the ramp.
Right,
And you're talking about parking down here, right?
right.
Right.
And what they do is they park here, and then they would, walk down here, and then they'd walk through the office, and then they would be at the tent.
Isn't there a turnstile? turnstile right
There
there by
is.
the office.
There is to
Yeah.
the south.
Yeah.
Instead of having everybody in the world go through the
Yeah.
office in the same.
Yeah, we could have, someone, they could come and drop it off and then go park.
Well, during this whole thing, I went to one planning meeting at the airport that Adam hosted at the airport, and I think that was like August or September. And then in October, I had a total shoulder replacement, and I was out. And so Celeste worked all this planning with Adam and some city managers and other folks. So she put all of that activity together. So this is kind of news to me, all of the exact detail of that. So we're kind of leaning on Celeste here a little bit for you guys to get caught up to speed on what that planning was.
It was a nice plan, a lot of work, but, it was a nice plan.
So what exactly was there for then Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Basically, we would have an air show, meaning that we'd have the booths that they could go by and aesthetics to listen, to find out about the airplanes, and actually have airplanes if we could, especially, hopefully, if we had them from the people that have hangars here, like that 195 gorgeous plane. Anyway, stuff like that. And then we would contact people like we might be able to get Patty Wagstaff to come. She lives in St. Augustine. Then just whoever else we can get, The military like to do that, and after all, this was given to us, I was thinking of Thunderbirds, but it might be something that we'd really want to do because it was the Navy that had this originally. And we're pretty sure that we might be able to, because of the fact that they gave us the airport, we might be able to get them. So, and not only them, if we can, anybody that we can find. We've got some guys that are in Spruce Creek. They fly over here all the time. They do shows. We can have skywriting done. You can have, if you want something for the kids, you can have bouncy house. You can have bring in some kind of carnival type thing for the kids. The people in this town in the past, when we have had a wow factor, which was in 2014, 2015, if you saw the book, which was really spectacular, they all loved it. It was fabulous. It made a lot of money too. So I think I've got the budget for that. I think it was like $250,000 that they made on that. I'm not sure.
Not sure.
I'd have to look and see. But anyway, it was that kind of stuff. So
What was planned for food and refreshments and things like that?
well, it was going to be food trucks. They were going to have food trucks. And actually, at that time, I had already contacted a lady that has over 100 food trucks. And we don't have to pay for the food trucks. The way she works it is she puts out a newsletter to all of her food truck guys, and they have to pay her to be in it here at the airport. So we don't have to pay a dime for the food trucks.
Where would these food trucks be, and where are the people going to be?
Everything is going to be all out in here. So it'll be all spaced. There's like a food truck here, there. We've got a lot of space out here that we can do that.
Are you talking about on the ramp or where
Depending, I think it can be on the ramp, depending upon how many airplanes we have. I don't really know until we figure out how many airplanes. And we don't know how many food trucks that, we don't know what kind we want. We want like, hot dogs, hamburgers, chicky licky.
How does that not shut down Epic and the other activities on the airport?
Well, they'll be involved.
Well, but they still have to run a flight school, and we still have independent individuals that are going to be wanting to operate their airplanes, et cetera, while this is going on.
Well, it's going to be blocked off because it's always been that way in the past.
Okay.
So-
I didn't see anything in the past, haven't been here
Oh,
for anything
okay.
in the past. so
Sorry.
I wasn't aware of how, I just know that we got folks here that are running
Yeah.
businesses and.
Yeah, it was, we had it all blocked off. We didn't have any problem with anybody as far as business and stuff. I mean, when I say it was spectacular, it was spectacular. We even had a school bus that shot fire out and went down the runway. And everybody just went wild and crazy. I mean, it was like, you got to be kidding me. But, you know, so, I mean, I can show you all that stuff. But I guess that's everybody's decision where you want to put it.
Yeah, Arvin, what do you think about Epic and Airgate being able to, working their business on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? Would they be able to have their business with this blocked off in front of their hangars?
Well, we would have to definitely be coordinating closely with them. I think if you had it in the shape of a bubble, like that as far as especially the black tie event, where you had that circle of aircraft and you kept it tight enough, we could potentially, but we'd want to communicate closely with them. We certainly don't want to impact them, and they are very busy. I think October is generally a pretty busy time of year for flight training. Since we're kind of in the middle, in between them, I'm sure there's a way to make that work. The only thing is, as far as an air show, is I did talk to a promoter who said, we were just talking, and he said, that's almost impossible to put together in that length of time from now till then. So that was his concern, as far as a full-blown air show.
Okay,
But
well,
I agree.
you asked originally what the planning was, and Celeste has kind of given you a kind of a high-level overview of what
Right.
she had
Right.
worked on, and was people she had contacted, that type of thing. And I know there was more that went on than that, because I had myself, before I went for my surgery, I'm a Embry-Riddle alumni, so I had talked to them about coming down and setting up some tents and providing some displays on both their flight training and maintenance training activities. I had talked to, even Massey Air Park had approached me about possibly coming up and just having a tent, a shade umbrella that had information on Massey Air Park and what the resources were down there and things like that. So I had talked to a few folks, but things kind of, when I went out for my surgery, then Celeste was off and running with this. So given what she said about the concept for what we had been worked on, what are your thoughts? You mentioned that you've already talked to someone that was involved in air shows. Had you folks thought about, I know I had talked to Adam once or twice, and he was trying to kind of reel things back in a little bit because he felt like it needed to be maybe a one-day event and have something at the airport that local people could come and bring their families to. With some of all of that, but a one-day event was what Adam had been kind of talking to me about.
And we are charging for parking.
Excuse me.
We are charging for parking.
Okay.
No, I really, aside
The
from
parking is the ticket.
the ideas that Celeste had put forth before, I was really open to hearing what everyone's ideas were, knowing that there are some constraints, time constraints, as far as putting on a full-blown air show per se. Because, for example, I just looked it up. There is air show, let's see, the 14th in Punta Gorda, there's 22nd, there's an air show in Jacksonville, and there's one in Sanford the 29th. As of
What
right now.
month?
October.
Okay.
So would you run by those one more time?
Sure, the 14th is in Punta Gorda. Well, actually, you know what that looks like? International Air Show. That might just be a race. It looks like that might not be an air show. So
Air-
literally, it looks
air
like
race?
the 22nd, no, it's a 5K. It just says air show, so I don't know. The air show, the 22nd, the 29th. There's one in Jacksonville on the 22nd, and then there's an air show in Sanford the 29th. And it looks like the Thunderbirds are going to that one. I know when I talked to the air show promoter, he said that given our runway lengths, we wouldn't be able to have those acts on site. They'd have to base out of Daytona or something, and then they could fly by, but they wouldn't be able to actually base here. The runway's too short. So,
Same thing with the Thunderbirds. They're just going to have to do a flyby.
right.
Unless, well, if you had it, well, I don't know if we could do that. Where are the Thunderbirds going to be, in Jacksonville or Sanford?
Sanford.
So the Thunderbirds, if we did it the same, like the 30th, we wouldn't have to, or if we did it the 28th, I don't know what day the 28th is, the Thunderbirds would come over here and it wouldn't cost us anything because they can do a flyby, you know. That was one of the things we tried to get, because we knew that they were in Lakeland, and we knew that they were going to quit Lakeland, and we thought, well, we can get them over here on their way back, and, you know, they can, you know, do their smoke job. That might be a possibility.
29th is a Saturday,
Yeah, it would have to be the 28th, though, I think.
and the 22nd is also a Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that Jacksonville would be that much competition for us. Sanford definitely would.
Yeah.
Sanford. And that's typically a big air show with military aircraft on the ramp and things like that in
Yeah.
Sanford.
Well, have you got anything on there for November?
Looks like Stewart, the 11th, but that looks like, and that's a ways away, that looks more like P-51's car show.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm sorry,
I'll
not
think of
car.
I think that was more than airplanes. There's one of them down south I went to, purely by accident.
It's called the Rise Above Traveling Exhibit, so that doesn't look like. P-51, Red Tails, Wasp, yeah, so that's more probably like World War II aircraft.
Anything else in November?
Not that I see at a quick search.
That might be a good time.
Well, the weather is typically a little better than as far as being outside.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Did you go to Sun and Fun?
No, I did not.
Did you go to Sun and Fun? No. Any of y'all go to Sun and Fun? Did you go?
Not this past year, but I've been to it in the past.
Oh,
yes.
me too. But I was just wondering how it went this year.
Let me ask you this, Celeste. Are you still able, willing to continue your involvement like you were before with all the investment that you had in the planning for the event?
I really got to think about that. I'm serious when I say that. I'm
Because-
really thinking about that.
And also, what possibly could be the commitment from the office.
What office?
The airport office.
Oh, the airport office, sorry. So, what office? Okay, let's see.
Well, I say that because I'm not sure that anybody else here has the contacts and the ability that you have shown to be able to reach out to all of these different organizations and get them to be either consider or make a commitment to do something.
Well, if I can make one phone call and turn it over to one person and they can do the whole thing. If you want to do it.
Well, would we have to pay that?
Of course we would.
Okay.
Nothing is free in this world. I mean, and they're very local. I mean, they're not but 40 miles from here. I mean, I'll help to a certain extent as long as y'all don't kill me. And you know what I mean by that.
Well, let me ask you guys this. What is your view of the thoughts of the city management on a regroup and doing something later in the year after the mayor has already issued the proclamation and going forward? Is the city willing or still positively supporting something as the Go Big event that Celeste had been working on, or do we know?
That I don't know for sure. I know that they said, why don't we regroup in a group and discuss it? Mm-hmm. And at that point, I would take it back to them and say, okay, what are their thoughts? I think they were thinking something more smaller scale, just considering by the time frame, but I don't want to speak, for them. I think it's just whatever we come up with, I'm going to take back to them and see, how they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're going to have a problem, to be honest with you. I mean, I talk to everybody there a lot, City Hall, and I don't think you'll have a problem. So anybody know when the election is? What the date is?
Tuesday, whatever.
In November.
Yes. Is it second Tuesday or
The city?
first
Yeah.
or second Tuesday? Is that?
So if it's the second, it'll be November 8th.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I've got in my calendar. It says Election Day, November the 8th.
Okay, so that's the 11th.
Okay. But we know that Russ is not running for mayor, so he would not be involved in an intense campaign activity.
True, and I was thinking, if he wasn't, he was a good mayor, he's been a good mayor, and if we had it before the election, because it was not going to affect him,
Yeah.
That might be a nice farewell. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Just a thought. And that would have to be the 4th. Like if we did it on a Friday or Saturday, the first weekend in November. Because you said the 11th was Stewart, that'd be the next weekend. And you really don't want to go past the 18th because it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And people want to go out of town, be with their loved ones.
Well, maybe we could consider you going back to the city and saying, look, that we had a fairly grandiose event planned. We had made a lot of contacts with a lot of different groups, and there could still be an opportunity to put some or much of that together, and we could go that way. We would have to go pretty intensely in a short period of time because we only got 90 days kind of to get, because everything's got to be done before the week before the event. Okay. So, and next week or so is July 1st.
Right.
So we've got July, August, September. So we really got 90 days to get something planned and in place. And, or if we could pare that down some and do like a Saturday and Sunday event as opposed to black tie event and Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Maybe we just do a weekend event and pare that down a little bit. Or we could see how much of the big event that we could put together between now and then.
Well, if you did it in November and you started working it on in July, you'd have 5 months. So you'd have 4 months.
August, September,
October.
October, okay. So, no, you got 4 months.
4 months.
There's no time in November.
I know.
at all. Okay.
Yeah.
So you got 4 months.
4 months,
So we've got 10 to 12 weeks,
right.
okay,
Right.
where you could actually be putting stuff together, because the event that you're talking about is going to require a significant investment from the city for support, because of everything that we've already, you had discussed, you know, as far as police and fire and trash collection and EMT and everything that goes along with that kind of big giant event. And I guess we need to find out what scope the city would like for us to pursue, and then we can plan an event
Right.
that kind of fits that scope.
Yeah, because
Okay.
when I went in, I asked for $175,000. That's what I wanted. And they said, really? I said, yeah, really. But we could probably, depending upon what everybody wants to do and how big or small or whatever, you probably could get that down. And also, if we had sponsors like NASCAR, you know, big sponsors, Lowe's, Home Depot, you know, there's a lot of people out there, they'll be willing to sponsor stuff. Might even be able to get, what's the name of the restaurant in front of the airport?
Lost Lagoon.
Lost Lagoon. He does a lot of things. He's done a lot of things for the fire department, stuff like that. He might be able to be willing to do something. I mean, I've got a caterer that I could check into, Riverside Catering. They do everything down at the Brannon Center and a lot of stuff. And they did the Horsing Around, which is always in April. And that's another thing. We can, if we go around and get things from citizens, meaning stores and stuff like that, we can have a silent auction. And we can get some airplane photographs, possibly, from somebody, something like that. People buy that stuff, and they bid on it. It may start at $25. We may get $300. So that's another way to make money. At least that's what Rhonda did. You know, she did stuff like that. Just a thought. And you can, you know, you ought to ask Shay. Shay wants to be involved. Let her do, she's got the kids that she wanted to do. And Shay is, what's her position over there?
She's like this.
Executive assistant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She wanted to be involved in that, in putting this on. And so she had an idea of bringing some, I don't know what that organization is called, but they're high school kids, or maybe kids that are going to Embry-Riddle or something, and they have this service that they can come out and work, and they get credit for it at school or something, something like that. But, and I know that Gary wanted to work on this. So, I don't know in what capacity, but I know that she and Steve, what's Steve's guy's name that works with them that's got the connections with the FAA? Do you know his last name?
Steve Clegg.
Yeah. So,
Well, how much of the stuff that you had worked on before do you think could still be put together in this time frame that we're talking about between now and the 1st of November?
the only thing that we would have to really decide that we would need to book in advance would be if we decided we wanted to do the black tie function. that would be the thing, you know, if we decide we want to do that and have it because first of all, we'd have to do ticket sales. Second of all, I'm not worried about the catering because I probably know somebody I can get for that. And the tent I can borrow from the white tent from the Atlantic Center for the Arts. I'm pretty sure that I could get that from them. Mm-hmm. And they usually have when they have it, the tent it's over here.
Yeah, but they've had it at the Brannan Center the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But it used to be near our hangar.
Exactly. They used to have it at
But-
down there at that end because it was all consolidated down there. But if you have it over here, that's a different story. So that just depends on whether or not you want to do it or not. You don't have to.
Well, one thing that's different from this picture here and where we are today is there is a big grassy area there that is available now.
Yeah, right here.
That wasn't there before.
Oh, you're talking about over here.
Yeah,
By your hangar.
where those hangars got knocked down. Okay, that's
Oh, over here.
yeah, right there.
But
So
restrooms wouldn't be near.
that's true, but you can't use the airport office for the sole restrooms for an event this
No,
size. You would
we'd have to
definitely
bring
No,
have
you'd have to have some
Yeah.
toilets or
Bring some
royal restrooms or
Right,
whatever,
yeah.
whatever they are.
Whatever.
Okay. But that I just thought I'd throw that out to keep that in perspective. But that's something that's different in the existing configuration than we have now, and it might not make such an impact on airfield operations as where we're talking about now. But it's just something to throw out for consideration. Okay.
Well, if you have this at a certain time, like if it starts let me think. If you're going to do it on, let's just throw this out. Say on Friday you wanted to do the black tie function. That's all you're going to do. And on Saturday is when the air show basically is. So we could say that the air show doesn't open until like 10. Of course, we'd have to bust our yang-yangs to make sure everything is done. We'd have to get up there really early. But, and if you just wanted to do it that one day, then you could shut it down at like 9, something like that.
Well, if I'm just looking here, Friday the 4th is the day, is the end of that first week, but Friday the 11th is Veterans Day. And there's usually a big event at the Brannan Center that day.
Yeah, they have all the flags and stuff like
And
that.
they've got all that activity going
Right, and they also have the band.
and on over there. So I don't know that Friday the 11th would be something we'd want to try and consider because of that. So
And I'm talking about the 4th.
so the
4th and the 5th.
So
before
what I
Veterans
was
Day.
trying to do is first let's kind of agree on a day.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we're saying Friday if we do a black tie event, it would be the 4th. And if we and the open to the public event would be Saturday or Saturday and Sunday,
Yeah.
depending on how big the city management would want to go with that.
That would be the best suggestion because of the fact that the weather and we're not having any interference on any other category from around Florida that we know of, but I'll check that to make sure. So that gives us 4 months.
Barring a hurricane, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. But the big thing is to get those airplanes,
For static. Yeah.
to get from all the years. Then we may have to find whatever. My
now we have
husband volunteered to call Honda and get a hotshot Honda aircraft here.
Now that we have actual parking next to, on the ramp, I think it'd be a little easier.
Yeah. But that
That
would be
is-
the first thing is to try to get those things because, we're going to have to borrow
Well, the air show, if we really want to do a full-blown air show, my understanding is at least 90 days you need approval from the FAA to do an air show.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what worries me more than even the black tie event, is the putting all that together
Mm-hmm.
in such a short time period. And my understanding from Adam, and again, I'm new, is that it's getting harder to get approval. There's more red tape now.
Oh, okay.
So I need, we'll talk to the city management right after, this, within the next 24 hours and see what the appetite is there.
See if they're interested.
And
They
then I
may
start-
be
gonna
and they may
start-
not.
Then I need to start figuring out if it's doable even, at this time frame because of the approval process
Well,
and all the acts, because
can
you
you-
got to get,
Well,
Can you help
that's
me
when-
understand what an air show means? Is that does that include airplanes that are just parked and on display, or
No,
does
no,
it,
we're talking
or are we
about-
talking about flyover activities?
yes, flyover activity, because there's airspace you have to close and corridors and all this stuff. You have to coordinate.
Okay.
Yeah, TFRs and temporary flight restrictions and all that stuff.
Okay. So you can look into that for us?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, you are familiar with Steve Clegg?
That's who I was talking about.
Because he is very up on all that.
Mhm. I don't know if that's who, I spoke to one of the promoters here who was doing an air show in South Florida about a month ago. And he was saying that he was one of the ones that was telling me it's getting harder.
Well, Steve works with Epic. Somehow he has some kind of relationship with them.
He is their, he tests their kids
Oh, he gives the
Oh,
test.
Okay.
to get their
He's
license.
their examiner?
He's
Yep.
examiner, but
Okay.
he's got the connections with the FAA.
Right.
That's who you want
Yeah,
to let
Steve-
him do that.
Steve Clegg would be good to
Yeah.
talk with.
You
That's
know,
who-
you know who, you got his contact
Yes,
info?
that's
Okay.
who was coordinated when we did balloon events in the past.
Yeah.
Gotcha. We'll start there.
Yeah. He would be the king. So. I think if you can get him to handle that, then everything else probably will fall in place. Because that's going to be your hardest
Mm-hmm.
thing to overcome. I don't know what the city's going to say. I mean, you got to get money from them. I mean, you got to go in and say, hey, I need X amount of dollars. I'd at least ask for $75,000. I mean, we may be able to get more money, especially if we get sponsors. If we can get NASCAR, Top Golf.
I don't have any idea about whether NASCAR or Lowe's or Home
Yeah,
Depot
yeah.
or
Well,
Walgreens or anybody else is going to be interested in doing anything like this. I just don't have any idea. I
All
know
I-
the NASCAR flight department very well.
Yeah.
Because they fly Gulfstreams.
Yeah.
Okay, and that
yeah.
was my
Oh,
business.
yeah, we can have. Yeah, they can come.
So-
yeah.
So,
Well-
but I don't know, I know the individuals in the flight department, and I've met Steve Phelps,
Yeah.
at some events that I participated in, but I don't know how much they're interested in supporting something at our little airport. Okay,
I don't know the answer to that. I just know that in my business, when I was in Atlanta, I would fly to New York, and I did a black tie function, and I had 5,000 people, and I said, give me $50,000, and they gave me a check, and I went out every year. I mean, I just asked for it because they were my total sponsor. That's the big thing. Plus, we have to do advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Going to have to put it on the radio. It's going to have to be in the paper.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff. And there is I forgot the name of that company, but there's a guy. He has 13 radios stations.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and he'll put everything on there, and the price is not bad at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, because you got to get it out there
Mhm.
to the public, got to advertise it. But, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know anybody at NASCAR, but I have other people that do, so I'm going to go. If it comes to that and we want them, I'm going to send them, not me.
Well, in previous years at the Balloon Fest, they had lots of sponsors.
I have the list. of their sponsors.
Um,
I think Tammy's got the list too, girl. Don't you have that? Yes, you do.
Probably, we probably have it on file.
You do. You have it on file. You can just print that puppy out and give it to him and go for it.
Well, is it possible to have the right person from the city come and sit down and a next workshop that we do in a week, okay, where we come back and say, okay, you know, we're trying to regroup on the 75th anniversary. We have some thoughts, but we kind of need some guidance from the city. To me, I think it would be good if with Celeste and as many of the other board members as we could get here to talk a little bit about some of the planning that was put together, and you know, here's our constraints with time. Here's where we think is a good weekend to do it. Okay, and can we get them thinking a little bit about what the scope of this the city would like or be willing to support, because we're flailing in the wind if we don't have that guidance from them on how much money that we could conceivably be fronted from the city and what we would have to go after from concession type income from the parking or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, you know, kind of make a judgment from that, and then make a list of what we think we can get and the time frame, and then just go run.
Yeah. Now, you're going to have to get, I think at that point you should invite the leisure group, because, you know, we have to go through them to get the permit, and then it has to go to the city. And they're going to tell you, because the leisure's going to have the police there, fire department, and, you know, they're going to say, hey, you got to have this, this, and this. So
I think it's a good idea for us to get all the people that will be involved making decisions together so that we can get something done quickly, instead of having this group say this and then go to somebody else and get their ideas, then they come back. It's, you know, if we're all together, we can do it faster and better.
I agree
Everybody
completely.
can have assigned things to do.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking maybe,
Is there
I'm not
any
sure
time
of the,
next week?
in the organization of the city, who's the right person that we could do that with, and if that constitutes some meeting that violates some sunshine law or something. I mean, we're not making any decisions, we're having a discussion about something, okay? But you guys would have to give us some guidance on that so that we do it the right way. But Celeste clearly did a huge amount of work before, and we probably, given where we are now and the time constraints and everything else, we need to sift that down to something that is a Saturday, Sunday event with possibly a Friday night a black tie or dinner event of some kind.
Or
And-
hors d'oeuvres.
Exactly, or hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah.
And let's see what their thinking is about that, and how that might play, and maybe have the right couple of people here. And I would almost be more comfortable doing around a conference table as opposed to us sitting up here and them sitting out there, or whatever's the right way to do it. Okay, if there's another place that we could do that besides here. If we have to do it here, that's fine.
Are you thinking about, who are you thinking about doing with the city? You thinking about talking to Colin?
Well, we're going to reach out. Well, that'll be the first person we're going to talk to about the next step, about getting people together in the room.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to ask some questions, and then we'll send out a note to everybody, probably, tomorrow afternoon?
Yeah.
Well, can I suggest this? Tell them, and this is purely a suggestion, but let them know that we met and we reviewed all of the effort that had been expended before, and the direction that was going, and it got overcome by events. Okay, so because I don't know that anybody expected that there was a surge early in the year in that January timeframe and all when the whatever the last COVID thing was, the flavor of COVID that raised up at that time. But, you know, we are where we are, and we have all this information about what we could have done. Why don't we get together and talk about what makes sense for November? And get a group of people here and talk about that, okay?
And I'll
Sounds
make
good.
sure I have everything.
Okay.
I'll actually give it to you. If you
No.
miss it.
I'll send an updated email tomorrow, what we
Yes.
find in our discussions, whether we can just do a round table or if we need to be here, and when possible dates are,
Yeah, okay.
within the next week to 10
Yeah,
days.
because we have to literally run from
Yes.
this
Yes.
point until November to make something happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
When you do talk to them, let's try to use some local people. Like there's the guys in Spruce Creek,
Right.
and there's some other guys in Daytona. I don't know what the guys in Daytona's name are, but I do know about the Spruce Creek dudes.
There's a guy out of Ormond that does some cool stuff.
Well, I
Yeah.
know,
You talking about performers or just, yeah.
I just thought of something. I'm in the VFW up in Port Orange, and one of my good friends up there is Sam McDonald, and he's the chairman for the Marine Corps League. And Jack Bolt was Serious Marine, okay? And they have a Young Marines youth group, okay?
Perfect.
That could possibly be of some involvement in
Okay.
this.
We could
So-
put them at the aircraft.
Yeah, you know, I think I know, is this a new group, this Young Marine?
Yes,
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 I'm
yes.
familiar with it, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Sam is the kind of the chairman of the Marine Corps League in Volusia County, and he I gave them some assistance with getting this thing kicked off that they're doing with this youth group. So
That's great.
So anyway, I'm just saying that there are local folks that we can reach out to.
Yeah,
like I And-
said, I'd love to get Patty. She is in St. Augustine.
Right, okay. So, we can sit here for hours and talk about it, but until we get the right people from the city here that are the decision makers that can say, yes, we think we can work with you on this kind of scope, well, we can fill that scope in, okay, with activities that you've already done some work on, if that makes sense.
Sounds good.
Okay.
We'll go with that and we'll find that information out and follow up.
Okay.
Anybody have a motion to adjourn?
Do we have anything else to be?
We have a few minutes. We have the room till 4, but if there was anything else, I didn't really have anything specific, but there was the other item on there was just to see if there was anything else that y'all wanted to discuss, you know, since it's an open, of a workshop format and not, you know, a set agenda.
So is anything going on that 7 acres on the south that you could talk about now?
Oh. So I wish Chris was here to give that update. No, I don't. We did just put out a promotional video that's going out to hopefully promote that a little bit more. But I think that it's pretty much status quo at the moment. We won't see any proposals until it's closed. So we're eager to see where it ends up.
Is that the one where you put the airplane out and said that we've got the property or whatever that y'all sent out?
Yes.
That's, okay. I don't know if you sent it out, but I got it.
I didn't send it out, but
I got it. Okay, that's what I was asking.
I'll talk to Gary and see if with this weekend, if we're talking about this first weekend in November, if he's got something lined up at his shop, that a warbird that would be in for some type of scheduled maintenance or something like that.
Oh, usually they do come in the fall.
Yeah, yep.
I'd like to
The-
get Betty Boobs or the one that he's got in there with the, you know.
So
The Tatas.
I'll see if I'll talk to him because
Okay.
he and I are involved in a couple of activities together separate from this, and
That'd be great.
I can see if, with that date laid down, you know. But we also have to find out from the city if that date works for fire and police and everything else.
Right.
Okay? So we
Well,
kind of.
that's another question for us to ask.
Yeah, we need to have, we need to come to pretty quick agreement on that, kind of get their understanding of, and thoughts on the scope, and then we could be off and running, and then maybe we could just have someone from their group kind of helping along the way. All right, you said we had the room to 4? That's about
You
five.
only have 5 minutes.
That's 5 minutes. I thought we did pretty good for getting
We
where
did
we
do good.
did.
5 minutes,
We
it
did.
goes on.
I tried to get that off the screen.
Yeah, you did, all right.
Okay. Well, we did a lot of talking. Any feedback from you guys? Is this kind of what you were looking for
No, it
from
is.
us?
No, it is because I didn't want to just go and do something. I wanted it to be something that we all want. And it sounds like this is the direction we're going to, where in a group, getting you all involved, getting the city involved, and then going from there. So we'll go and check with the FAA. That's my homework. Check with this gentleman that's helped us before. Get some direction from him. See what our limitations are, and then we'll find out what our limitations are from the city, or what our encouragement is, or what parameters they want us to work within. So then we can be off and running.
Okay.
I do know that Shay was talking about having something for Epic in the fall, like October, November. So that might be I don't know what it was. I don't know if she's still planning on it or what. I have no idea.
Well, this will have to include them as well,
Yes.
because this will impact
Yeah.
Epic and Airgate too. But really, this is for the community.
They
It's,
want an air show.
Yeah.
They had a blast. It's a fun thing for the kids, the family, and everything. That's the big deal. Everybody likes an air show. It's just a thing. I mean, everybody does.
Shayna is still with Epic. She still has that role
Yes.
that she had before, because she was in 1 or 2 meetings that I was in before I had to go out for my surgery. Okay. She seemed very interested and enthusiastic in her early involvement in that. I think it would be important for us to keep Epic and Southeast and the big tenants on the airport as involved as we can in the whole process. Okay.
yeah, I would like to invite them to future discussions.
Yep, Shayna would be great.
Invite Airgate,
Yep.
so that we can,
Well, let's meet with the city.
yes,
And figure out how big a bag we've
First.
got. And then we could have a follow-up meeting after that one. Once we have the scope kind of roped around, we could have another meeting, and we could have Shayna and Airgate folks and Gary and whoever
Right.
else we want to get in there, and from our airport.
Right.
Okay. And
What
then
about
we-
George Baker's place? Did all that stuff go and we got the property and
be on the next commission meeting
on the 28th?
for the approval for the sale,
Okay,
the final.
all right.
So
I'm just curious because I will be there. I have another agenda to go to, so.
far, so good.
Okay.
We're excited about that.
Okay,
Yes.
All right.
all right.
That might be, if that passes, we might be able to get them to do something.
Well, I think either way, I think Curtis has been, he's great to work with. And so, yeah, we could definitely include him.
Okay.
Okay, well, I make a motion to close our workshop.
Second it.
There we go. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, ladies, for showing up. Okay.
Yes.